Hi, everyone. It's Miss Mills. I am your student's AIS teacher. AIS stands for Academic Intervention Services. I wish things were named simpler things like extra help. That's what that class basically is, or my class basically is. So I want to talk about my class. I want to show you the website and just kind of go over what we do in AIS. But I'll start with a positive message. I think that's important. Sandra Cisneros says the beauty of literature is you allow readers to see things through other people's eyes. All good books do this. I would argue all good literature does that you get to see the world not just as you experience it, but the diversity of the experiences in the world and the beauty in that. Um, I think it builds empathy and all sorts of things. So literature is obviously one of my favorites. That's how I got into English as a teacher. But we're going to read a lot in this class. I want them to work on their independent reading and read about their own lives, right? Teenage lives, the lives of other teenagers around the world, and anything really that they're interested in. I've already started talking to students in small groups because that's what these classes are. They're actually set up as small groups. And they love, horror movies. They like that literature. They like anime is big right now. Reading these Japanese comics. That's real reading. Reading comic books is real reading. Graphic novels are real books. Audiobooks are real books. So really kind of changing their mind about reading is one of my goals for sure. Because if a student is in this class, often they have struggled with reading. They have struggled with writing. English is not their favorite. And so that's something to keep in mind. I'm here to hopefully change their minds about that, but we'll see. Okay. So AIS, I do work on skills. So if your student has been struggling with writing a paragraph or getting details into their writing, then that's going to be something I will work on with them. That's probably what led them to this class, because not being able to write well or clearly really is something that'll lead you to a lower English score, but not just a lower English score. Your math classes are doing reading comprehension questions. Social studies has a lot of writing in it. English skills are really, really important. So I do focus on them through what we read, and reading what you like is so key. If you don't like what you're reading, then you will not take in as much. So I do like the independent reading aspect where they'll get to choose their own book and we'll talk about it, because so much of school is like assigned reading, like it's a book club. That really does kill the love of reading for students. I don't know about you, but I don't want to be forced into a book club. I don't want to read that book. So that's what's great about AIS. There's a lot of freedom there. I'm also here to support them. If I know that as an English department, we're all working on conflict this quarter, then I should be doing work in AIS that's about conflict so I can strengthen their understanding. Since it is a small group, it's easier to work with them and support them with what they're doing in English class also. Again, just like my English class, I do want to fill in those learning gaps. The learning gaps are going to be larger for students who struggle with English because, and by that I mean like the English class, not the English language in general. Because if you don't like something, like if I didn't like math or I didn't like history, I probably didn't tune in as much to the distance learning too. So this class is great. We get one-on-one time to really see where their gaps lie, but also their strengths. They do have strengths, and that's something they need to too. Supporting the needs of students. Again, like I said, I'm really trying to get them to see that English is an awesome class and to hear what they already like about it, because we have so many great teachers they've had and so many different great books they have read. I also want to prepare them for next year. That could be building their confidence. That could be getting them to speak more in English. Sometimes students are really hesitant to speak in English class because they're worried that they don't have the right answer. So it basically, sorry, I lost my train of thought. Somebody just came by, but yeah, just preparing them for next year and making sure they're ready to do the essay or ready to read a longer work of literature if that's something that kind of stresses them out. Okay, so the independent reading, they'll get to choose a book they like. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about all the things we should talk about, right? Characters. What's a problem for this character, which is conflict? How did your character change over the course of the story? It's interesting. They do like it. Reading is just a movie in your head, you know? You're just making it up as you go. Quill, I love. One of my co-teachers from last year, Miss Haney, showed me this great program called Quill. It basically works on their grammar, which I know is old school, but grammar does matter. It does affect how you speak, how you write. So it's interactive. Like it tunes itself into what your student needs. So if your student needs to work on pronouns like I, me, then we can work on that. And practice skills. Okay, yeah. So again, just aligning myself with whatever skills we're going to be using in our English classes, like the writing a paragraph or an essay, and organizing our ideas, brainstorming before we start writing. The grading policy is great. It's pass or fail. As long as your child is getting work done, coming to class, interacting, they're going to pass. So I love this class. It's so great. Okay, so here's the weird thing about good old AIS class. It's actually every other day. So your off day, I don't give work on that off day. We've never given work for the day that students haven't been in AIS, like before COVID, after the new COVID way of learning. So they really shouldn't have any extra assignments. So that's good. Mondays, so Mondays we are supposed to give out work, right? That is, we do need to do that based on the remote learning plan. So I'll just ask them to make up any work they're missing or to do something like read your independent book, which is great. So hopefully they can find a quiet spot, hopefully outdoors. It's gorgeous out lately, to read their independent book. Student work, what's that going to look like? Really individual. If I think of Quill being in this box, they're going to work on the computer for Quill. Their independent reading, it'll be their own book, but that's great. We can talk as a book club and then of their choice, right? And they also are going to be producing, like right now, what we're thinking about doing is having students research important people that we've never learned about. I have these great poetry books, which you would think students don't like poetry, but they do. They do. Kwame Alexander's amazing. So we're actually reading a book. It's a picture book, but also a poetry book. And it's called Bravo. I really, really like it. And basically it focuses on important Hispanic or Latino people that we never learned about, which I think is really cool. And it goes through their lives, like why we should know them. And the students are excited about researching these different people, or even telling me about modern day people that are Hispanic that we should we should know about. So it's pretty cool. And it'll have all sorts of skills in that, right? They have to research, they have to find an actual website or piece of information from an article to make slideshows and then present them. And that's an important skill too, being able to speak in front of others. So even though it's a small group, it can still be an important way to safely practice presenting to others. So we do a lot. There'll be lots of student work eventually to see here. If you want to ever talk about how your student's doing, you can email me. That's the best way. But if you'd like to call, here's my number. Here's my extension. I'm not there all day, unfortunately, in this room, 2705. But that's because I'm traveling to the different rooms that I'm teaching in. You should still call this extension and leave me a message and I'll get back to you. Or here is my Google Voice number. So it goes to my cell phone. It's not my cell phone number. It's just a professional office number if you wanted to do that. Or you can even text me at that number and I would get it too. Just tell me who your child is, what's going on, and I'll be more than happy to answer your questions. I wish I could see you in person. Sorry it's only by voice, but I hope you have a great night. Thank you so much for coming to my TED Talk here. Have a good day.